All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the stream. Yeah, happy Tuesday. What a beautiful day for another session of programming. Working on more monster AI today. So, in the background, I figured out two things yesterday. One, I figured out why these tests weren't appearing. So apparently, when we switch between branches, occasionally we're going to run into an issue where it can't find the run settings file, which admittedly, that's what the error said, right? It couldn't find run settings, and we're like, oh, why couldn't it find run settings? And even though I have this option here under configure run settings that's checked, auto detect run settings files, I have to actually select this and get it to populate because it couldn't recognize it for whatever reason, and who knows why that is, but it couldn't find it, so I had to manually go in and specify it. And one thing to know for the future is that we can actually see that it appears as an option down here as one of the run settings. So in the future, if we're not seeing this, then we know the test adapter is not loaded. So it's just something to keep in mind going forward to make sure that we don't run into this issue again. So that's to get testing working. Testing's working great now. No other issues. We got that blocking test that we implemented yesterday working. And then I also went ahead and tested Battlecry stuff. So for Battlecry stuff, yesterday, you all might recall we were trying to get the Battlecry for warriors to run for monsters and players. So this was the code, and basically there were two issues. The first issue was in here, we had to add parentheses around these because it had a ternary operator, and the ternary operator has lower precedence than ampersand ampersand, the and comparison. So therefore, our logic was screwed up. It has this and this symbol both have lower comparison. So because of that, we had issues. Adding parentheses around these macros solves all of that. Hi there, Kyle and Ayush. Nice to see you both. Welcome to the stream. Good to see you all again. Yes, so that's kind of to catch things up. Additionally, we renamed this variable inside this filter lambda function from e to filtered ent because our config macros assume a variable e, and to get the correct variable coming out, the user of the action or spell has to be the entity derived from the original E passed in. So we can't override that. So we can't use the same E. So I just changed it to something more descriptive. This is filtered entity. All right, so moving on from there, we're gonna go ahead and work on the ground slime ability today. So the ground slime ability is a little interesting because all we do for the player is we run this spin function, and the spin function goes ahead and sets the state of the player to be spinning, and then there's a spin attack timer, a spin speed, and a spin angle, and this all kind of just happens. So presumably we would have to implement this, but for monsters as well, in order to get to work. So basically we're going to be replicating the spin functionality that comes with this whole system. So the first thing I'm going to do actually is I'm going to go back to the Warrior and Thief AI code, and I'm going to add a new state, a new phase, because essentially it's just a fixed state inside the AI code. If we're running this state, we're not doing anything else. So we can add a new case specifically for the spin state, and inside of here, we will force it to move towards the player. Like, we do have to do movement code eventually, but presumably we will be moving towards the player. So we will call m run strategy, and we will be calling move towards. Or is it run towards? Run towards? Yes. So it's called run towards. Like so. And that'll just move it towards whatever its target is. It looks like it needs to be an actual monster strategy enum. Oh, that's right, we did change that. So, monster strategy, run towards. That way we can't put any invalid variables anyways. And at the same time, we're gonna go ahead and set our target location that we're moving towards. So by setting this target variable, we are telling it we want to go towards that position. So we'll do game get player to fix that. Also, I need to turn down the heat because it's really hot in here, so I'll be right back. Thank you, Lucian, and welcome. I'll be in one moment. Alright, we're good to go now. Sorry about that. So, we have to set this to get pause, get the player's position. Yeah, I just need to turn the AC on. I'm dying over here. Okay, so we get to add all the spin update code inside of here. We just have to trigger it, right? So we're gonna go back to Warrior now, and essentially we'll just make an entity function that does spin regardless of which entity it is. And we do have to change what the input variable is. So instead of _f just for players, we're now going to do config _f. And I had caps lock on while holding shift. I seem to do that a lot. Like, I forget that I'm holding the shift key at the same time that I turn on caps lock, and I end up being counterproductive. Seems like a fun coding session. Yes, today should be pretty fun. Just working on more stuff. Hi there, Plasticky. Oh my gosh, good to see you. It's your man. It's your man right here. Oh, congrats. Good to hear. Yeah, we just started coding for the day. Alright, so we have to implement the spin function for entities. So we're going to go to entity.h and we're going to add in a spin function. And I believe it's just void. Yeah, we don't really do anything special. We just use void. And it's going to be called spin. It's going to be non-const because it does modify the state of the object. And then in here, we're going to do void. And it's just called spin. And it's going to call both spin functions for both objects. At least, in theory, it should. We'll go ahead and implement spin for monsters as well, which we'll just copy and paste from player. Stop stealing my plushies. I like your plushies. Wait a second. I bought that for you. That's not yours. I gave it to you though. Okay, anyway. Monster. And go down here. And we are going to change this to monster. Spin. Oh god. Why is this being terrible? What just happened? It just typed, like my cursor was moving and it was retyping everywhere I clicked. God, that's awful. Okay. Then we have to go to the header file. Something's going on with Visual Studio. It's being really slow right now. I think it's trying to catch up on things. Let me go ahead and I'm just gonna hit, for my sake, because this looks like it's being pretty bad right now. I'm just gonna go ahead and hit run build insights on build full program database file for solution. So my guess is I haven't been running this all day. IntelliSense has to do some cleanup, so it's gonna be doing that in the background, and it's gonna be a little slow for a minute, but then we'll have full database specified, and they'll make sure that it's not like, we're not gonna have mid coding session slowdowns. So I'm just gonna give it a minute. It takes a little while because it's a huge project. It's like, I promise I didn't break anything. Yeah, it's a huge project, so naturally it takes a minute. But yeah. Looks like we are good to go. Just give myself a drink. Little cutie drink. Okay, so I'm gonna go up to, let's see. So let's go up to get transparency and we'll put it right next to it. So get transparency. And we'll just put it right below. This is a void spin. And it's non-const. And then we have to modify these. So we're not going to control state here. Hi there, Crotone. Good to see you again. The entity count has started. Yes, I get to say the word entity a lot today. So, yeah. We have to make these 3 local variables. They don't exist yet. Now, what we could do is we could put them in the monster variables. I kind of like that more, only because it's more like... It fits better with the paradigm of the strategies already having custom variables, because this is so specific, right? This is like, I'm only going to be using these in this particular place. So it's like, do I really care to have these as variables in here? I want to say I want to say no. So let's go ahead and make it so spin, all it really does is set the state, right? So the state control should be ideally inside of here, not in, or excuse me, in here, not out here. Like, we're not going to change the state like that. So let's go ahead and inside of spin, still set the state, but we're doing m.set phase. All right, we're already in monsters, so set phase, right? And we'll set the phase. So we don't actually have the, and I'm just going to go ahead and say get current strategy, or current strategy. Current strategy, maybe it's just strategy. There it is, get strategy name, so that gets the current strategy, default strategy, and then the phase. So interestingly, when we do this, the phases are not like it doesn't know about this. This is local to a static function, so there's no way for us to know that this enum exists here. So I'm just gonna do this for the sake of having that there. And just saying, so what I typically do is I just put a little note here that says, note if this, or even better, we do it on the other side, because we're mostly going to be modifying AI code on this end, right? So we can put a little note at the end of this enum. If this enum is modified, please update monster spin as it has a dependency on this enum's values. And that should be all we have to do there. We could also just store this particular state inside of a variable itself, and maybe that would actually work better. Then I wouldn't have to actually do keep manual track, which we want to keep code as low maintenance as possible. We should try to be as dumb as possible about our code. We shouldn't have to make assumptions everywhere whenever we're working on code. That is ideal, because the project is so big, I'm not going to remember that this is a thing, or I'm going to ignore the comment, right? Comments are very easy to ignore. It's very easy to not read them all the time. So if we can just remove the manual step, that is ideal, right? So what we can do is we can go to monster attribute, and we're going to add a new monster attribute here. These are just dynamically defined or arbitrarily defined names that lets us store it inside of a standard any map. any values we want. So we can use these in any way. All the enum is doing is providing us with a user-friendly name for when we're programming. So in this case, we can just call this the spin state slot. And I can be even more specific and call it the enum slot. That way I know we're specifically storing the enum slot's like value in that place. And that way we can just store that on init. So regardless of what we do to this enum in the future, when we recompile the code, our monster will know via a variable. I'm just gonna say as an integer. This is how you set up a monster attribute that we defined prior. Also, maybe I should restart Visual Studio.